Hi, welcome to Lost in Composition. Today I'm sitting down with Tyson Grumm in his home and in his studio. Hey Tyson.
Hello.
Thanks for doing this.
You bet.
So, you were born in Newcastle, Wyoming, is that correct?
It is.
And then you obtained your master's or your bachelor's of fine art from Southern Oregon University?
Southern Oregon and Ashland.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life?
Yeah, let's see. When growing up, when you were asking me these questions earlier, I was reflecting on some of these, like the process of, and when I was younger, I did a lot of kind of like solitary imagination. So I was like Matchbox cars, Legos, all that shit that you do when you're young. But I was doing it by myself a lot, which I just could do hours. I would sit out in the ditch for hours in the dirt and create a whole city. So a lot of creativity going on by myself. And then when I was probably in high school, I decided I think I like to draw a lot. People loved me drawing. And then my dad was a pastor, so I would draw. I was bored, of course, in church, and so I would draw all the people in the congregation from behind. So I was like really good at drawing the backs of people's heads. And I had like every congregation member, I would just sit and doodle them on the offering envelopes. At any rate, so I got really into drawing, and most of it was all cartooning. And then I played basketball. I was a big sports kid. And so I ended up getting a scholarship out of high school to play basketball. And I was like, oh, this will be perfect. I can go to college and then like not have a lot of homework because I'll do art. I'll major in art. Yeah. So I thought I'll just draw and paint and no one will care, and then I won't have a lot of homework, which was perfect. So that worked. So all through college. But when you go to college and you're majoring in art, they require that you take all of the elements of art. So you got to take photography, sculpture, pottery, just every kind of component to see what you're into and what you like. And through that process, I did not like to paint before that. I only liked to do drawing and charcoal. And through that process, I had to take painting class, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It's not as bad as I thought it was. And I was learning in oil, and I really got into it. And so that kind of changed my focus from what I thought I was going to do, which was some sort of illustration or something like that, to more painting. And at Southern Oregon, I ended up staying for so I went through college on a basketball scholarship, and then that ended at year 4, and then the BFA program's 5 years. So I was like, okay, I gotta get one more year and I don't have any money left. So I spent the last year of my college kind of living out of the school for free, like covertly. I got to know the security guards, and they would let me, the Bachelor of Fine Arts painting program, they would select 2 artists to take this little private room over that they could kind of have as their own room. It was in the studio space kind of. And so the security guard would let me in every night, and I'd sleep on the couch in there.
So you were one of the 2?
Yeah, I got selected, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, and then I'd take showers down at the gym because I knew everyone from basketball at the gym. And so that's awesome. Pretty much lived for free. I would climb in the window. I mean, this is back, they probably have better security now, but I'd climb in the windows and I remember getting up, I would hear the class start outside my room, because you're literally in the painting room, right? And I'd get out and I'd wake up and I'd come out and there would be a class, and they're not a class I'm going to, but I'd have my toothbrush and I'd just go and walk right out with just jammies on. And I was like, oh, I guess it's time. They would wake me up with class starting. But anyway, I was able to live through that, through the process of basically for free almost. And to make money, I started actually selling my paintings. So kind of indirectly, I was like starting to make a living at it without even meaning to. I was selling them, just to anybody, my family and things like that. So anyway, that kind of I'm trying to build a process there as I grow up thinking about art through college, if that's what you kind of were asking.
Yeah, it is. And so you said that early on you were doing art. Did you know that you wanted to be an artist when you grew up?
I knew I wanted to draw. And so I was really obsessed with cartoons. So everything about my life was cartoons. I loved the newspaper cartoons. So I was like really into making funny cartoons. I did not think I would like do fine art.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So who were some of the artists that influenced you when you were younger?
So when I was younger, I had a paper route, and I would deliver the papers every day. And back then, this is I don't know who's listening to this, but they probably don't even know what a paper route is.
Oh, I had a paper route too.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you made money back then.
Yep.
But it would every day it'd have the cartoon section, and my favorite cartoons were those single panel cartoons. So there was a couple of them, like Family Circle was a famous one, but Gary Larson was the one that I just mimicked everything that I could to look like Gary Larson, the Far Side cartoons. So those two, and then I don't know if you remember, you probably do. Did you remember growing up with the books that were called like Richard Scarry books, and they had this little worm that was hidden in every page, and it was like all animals, like I think there was like a wolf. It was very cartoony drawing.
I'm a little older than you,
Rabbits,
so my sister had them.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, I was obsessed with that because it was a whole world. This guy, Richard Scarry, I think Richard Scarry's the author, but he also called him Richard Scarry's, I don't know what the name of it was. Always was Richard Scarry something, but anyway, he would create a whole world. So he had buildings and crazy cars that were invented for each thing, and it was like very creative. So I was very into like imagining that I could make a book like that or a world like that. So I would say those were very influential, but it's all cartoon and illustration stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So who are some of your favorite artists today?
Like current artists?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a lot of current artists that I love, but I have this theory that I never tell anybody who they are because I riff a lot of stuff off them. So I don't want people to look at my art and think, oh, that kind of, I see that and that. So I am constantly on the internet polling and culling imagery and stuff, and a lot of it's from artists that I like that are actively making art, and I'll be like, oh, I love the way he painted this, I'm gonna steal that from him. And so I steal shit all the time from other artists, like pieces and stuff. And so I'm not telling, no, I'm not gonna tell you.
I'm not saying that you need to tell me. I'm like, but isn't that art?
It is.
That's
but
art.
Artists don't admit they do it usually.
Okay,
they do it, but they don't. And I feel like I feel like it's a secret that I have, and I'm like, okay, I can't say my favorite artists because honestly, my favorite artists kind of paint like I do, or I feel like they do. Okay. So I'm not gonna say who my favorite artists are. But it's always rotating and changing because I'm always on the internet trying to find artists. So it isn't like there's a couple artists. I feel like I'm always seeing art that I like, and then I'll ride an artist out where I'll like do their like I'll get into a landscape artist, for instance, and I'll just pull all his skies, and I'll just start copying all his skies, and you will never know that sky is in a painting that other artist did, right? And you'll never be able to figure it out. But in my head, it's like I can see exactly how they painted it. I can use the technique. So if you look at my art closely, you'll sometimes see a lot of technique variation, and the variation is based on the artists I'm riffing from. So a lot of times if some artists will use a palette knife, and I'll just do the whole fucking background with a palette knife because that's how it looked when I was pulling from it. I also do real stuff, photography, photographs of like landscape photographs. It doesn't have to be artists, but I'm constantly culling things from other, and I guess a photographer would be indirectly an artist, but pulling an image that I like and almost trying to mimic that piece from that artist. And then I, of course, elaborate on it. Yeah. Because that's the thing. They fuck up. They stop. Like a landscape artist stops making the painting before it's done. It's like, dude, you quit too early. That is a great background. Now finish it.
Put some more in there.
And they never do.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say who my favorite artists are, but you can try to figure it out.
What about one dead one?
Dead ones?
You mentioned one when we were prepping.
Did I?
Dolly.
Oh, yeah, okay, there's a couple dead ones that are really old that I loved. Harmonious Bosch. Oh my God, that guy, I don't know if he was insane or what, but the fact that he was making that kind of art in the 14th century or something is just mind-boggling because it looks so surreal and abstract. It looks like someone today made it. So early on, when I had to take a lot of art history classes in college, and I just got obsessed with Harmonious Bosch, just because. And then there's certain artists from back then too that have incredible palettes. The paints and the colors. They used a lot of different techniques to make paint. You know, a lot of eggs put in stuff and stuff like that. So I think some of their colors were even super toxic with the cadmium and stuff that they were using. But at any rate, Salvador Dali was more through like even after Salvador Dali's so great because he looked like to me an artist, which is kind of how I map out how I want to be an artist, which varies again from a lot of artists. But I don't want any paintings looking like the last painting. So I think most artists paint a style and then it's just rinse and repeat. I see it constantly. It drives me fucking crazy. I get that that's all they can do. It sells well, so I get that they keep doing it because it's like they'll create a piece that's gorgeous, but then I'm like, that one's like 70% like what you just did. So I'm always trying to think, okay, how can I make my collectors want the next one? And in my head, it's like, well, they have that one, but they don't have this one. I don't want to have a repetition. And Salvador Dali, to me, was a great example of that. If you look at his paintings from even early on in his career when he was almost doing standard, like, figurative work and stuff like that, and he just got crazier and crazier, but all his paintings look different. They're just so drastically different. It's like he didn't give a fuck. He's just like, I'm painting whatever I want, and I'm not going to get caught up in like, oh, this sells well or whatever. So I really appreciate him on that level. Of course, you can get into the use of, I mean, he's actually a really good painter too. I mean, his skies and stuff are just stunning. So
one of my favorite pieces is by him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody would ever guess it.
Have you ever been to the Salvador Dali museum?
I have not.
Oh, God,
I need to go.
Yeah, it's like worth the whole trip.
There's an artist down there that I want to interview, so if she bites, I'll definitely go.
Definitely.
But it's The Discovery of America by Christopher Columbus.
Okay, I would know in a second as soon as I
most
saw it.
people wouldn't think it's Salvador Dali when they look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up then.
Yeah, it's kind of biblical and it's very.
Yep.
And I loved it early on, and then as I grew up, as I aged and I learned more about America, I'm like, ooh, that's really whitewashing history. And now I love it because it is that. It's totally whitewashed.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Anyways, so I'm going to break a lot of YouTube hearts right now because you're a fairly handsome fella.
At 50, I'm still handsome.
So where'd you meet your wife?
So that's a funny story too. Okay, so when I first moved up to Seattle, it was, I want to say circa 1998, 99. And I think I was going to early on, one of my early shows at Rosa Galleries. This was when she was in Kirkland. And I think it was like one of my first solo shows. And so I was going to the opening reception of that. I think it was either that or the Christmas show opening reception, but it was one of the early shows. And I didn't know a lot of people in Seattle because I had just moved up not too long ago. I was living in Portland after college, and then I moved up here around then. And so I took my parents, or they took me, I can't remember. I think I was living with them at the time even. They lived up here. And I remember pulling into Kirkland. We parked somewhere in Kirkland. We're walking to the gallery, and these two chicks are in front of us. And I make as a joke, and they're dressed like to the nines, and they're just looking hot, smoking hot. And I say to my dad as a joke, I go, oh, these chicks are clearly going to my art opening. You know, it's so obvious as I'm walking behind them. And then they kept walking to the art show, and I'm like, oh shit, they actually are going to the art opening. So they walked in there, and I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. And then, of course, one of them was my future wife, Tara. And so then when I, of course, introduced myself in there at some point, and I was like, God, I got to figure out how to like ask her out or see if she's even single or anything like that. And she was saying her mom collected art from Patricia at the gallery and stuff, and I was like, oh, do you know any other galleries around town? Because I've never. So I'm just totally lying, you know. And I say, like, I haven't really been to any. And she's like, well, you know, Pioneer Square has tons of galleries. This is back when they had a bunch of galleries in that Pioneer Square run. And I was like, oh, I've never been down there. You should take me. So we actually went on a date, and I was like totally lying through it all. But anyway, I met her, and I knew she liked my art because her mom had bought like 2 paintings randomly, not then, but previously already from me. So
oh, cool.
She already knew that's why she was going. And she was going because her mom was out of town and she was scoping some art out for her mom. Her mom just goes, go to his show and see if there's anything else there that we'd want. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
really cool. So you and your wife also have a son.
Yep. Hawkeye Grumm from MASH.
There you go, Hawkeye Grumm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the best part of being a father for you?
The best part about being a father, I was thinking about this again because you asked these questions. You prompted me with a few of these questions, which helped because you can answer them a little more logically. But I really think the best part about being a father is that, and this may sound a little shallow, but it's so true. And I was explaining to you earlier a little bit about how I see the world a little different than most people. So a kid is basically, to me, my kid, is like a painting. So I'm constantly working on this piece of art, not like a painting, but like a piece of art. And you're forming this piece of art and you're adding elements to it. Things aren't working. You're fixing the things that aren't working. And you hopefully in the end make a masterpiece that I'm going to take a lot of fucking credit for it when it's done. I'm not going to go, well, he's his own person. I'm going to be like, no, this thing is a lot of me in it. And I worked hard to make this thing. So I think the most rewarding part is creating this, what you hope is a really good piece when you're done that lives on and is. My dog is snoring.
It's okay.
This
is Zero?
Yeah, Zero's on the floor. He's a big old lab. And then something you're really proud of in the end, and you worked for. It will probably end up being my greatest masterpiece if it turns out good. Now, if it turns out bad, I'll just get rid of it and start over.
There you go.
Yeah, no.
I love that analogy. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, I know. I never thought of it, but I'm like, that's totally how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's
it
a
makes
constant thing I'm working
sense.
at. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and we've been friends on Facebook for, I don't know, ever.
Yeah, a long time.
And ever since I've known you on Facebook and collected your art, I've seen you buy homes, spruce them up.
Yeah.
And one of them you resold, and now this one, when I drove up, I'm like, this is a work of art.
Yeah, they kind of pretty much are. And I'm going to go back to what I just said because it's a good tie-in with that. I've done it a lot. I've done it. This is our 6th home, I believe now, and they're like paintings where. And you know how I realized they were like paintings too is that I don't have any. It doesn't bother me at all to sell them, and that's the same with my paintings. Some artists have a lot of trouble selling. They get emotionally attached to them. I want my paintings to go into someone else's house and be enjoyed, and I can't wait to start the next one. And that's kind of how a little bit of the homes are. I sit and I put a lot of little intimate and intricate little things that I understand other people can't do because I'm an artist, and that's what sells the piece, the house when it's done. But I get excited to sell it and then have the next challenge. But they are like giant pieces of art, and they're very therapeutic for me because when you paint, it's very, it's all in your head and it's very stationary and you barely move. And, I'm just like painting very intensely and there's not a lot going on except what's going on in your head. Working on a house and turning a whole property, I'm very into the landscaping, tying in with the house. All that is very the opposite. It's extremely physical work.
Yeah.
And I think I do that as a counter, but yet you're still getting that same vibrance of creativity.
That makes sense.
And everything is seen like we were talking about just before we started this about how you can't visualize. Yeah, you see,
it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Sure,
and
he has no ability to visualize.
I'm going to link to the article that I found in the New York Times.
Well, now you have to, otherwise you're just going to look like somebody can't visualize.
Some idiot. Yeah.
So the estates that I work on, and I call them estates, I always name them. So they have titles like a painting. So this one is Camp Bainbridge.
And I noticed that right when I drove in.
The last one was called Hawk's Crest, which was on a cliff. I mean, they all have names like paintings, and I work hard to create that personality into the building. Now it sounds weird, but as I get older and older, I'm going, oh, this is just another fucking painting. That's totally what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I think.
So this isn't necessarily your retirement home.
No, this one will not be my retirement home. Oh. And that's what's so stupid too.
I love it. It's beautiful.
I know. And
it's a perfect
it would be a retirement home for 99% of people, especially ones I build that master suite I'm working on, because it's ground level and everything. That's the other stupid thing I do. I don't plan to flip these. I build them for myself, and then I get excited about another one.
Okay.
So there's no logic in it. I'll build a studio in it and then sell it. And I'm like, why the hell did I built 5 fucking studios. I just keep building studios because I think it's my house. But then I'm like, why do I keep building studios and then selling them? It doesn't make it. And my family thinks I'm nuts. Everyone thinks I'm nuts, but they're not getting they don't understand the creative part that's going on. What I want to do next, my next house, maybe, but before I die, I want to start a house from nothing. So I want to get a piece of land and do it from 0 to 100. I want that to be my grand finale before I die.
That's my ideal too.
Yeah, so. I just feel like I'm getting enough information now on all the aspects of how I like to live and what I want, and what I think a house should look like. And I mean, there's a lot of research and stuff going into as I work, because I'm very obsessed with it. But the other thing that I should touch on a little bit is, being an artist is you're not going to make a good living at it. You're starving all the time, indirectly. So this, I think, also was a skill that I developed. I had no skill at this at all when I started, but it was a way for me to contribute to the family on the financial level. So we were able to flip these homes and make money off them, and that countered a little bit of the fact that I'm, making minimum wage painting all year.
Yeah. But you're happy.
I'm happy.
That's the main thing.
I told my wife, when I think it was kind of embarrassing, because it was like our second or third date. I said, sweetie, I don't know. Oh, I didn't call her sweetie then. Yeah. But I said, you will not. I want to get this off my chest because I'm a little insecure about it. But I said, I'm never going to do anything but paint. So if you're looking for someone to actually have a career other than just starving artist, that's not me, because I will never stop painting and I will never do anything else. So if I make $0 at it that year, I'm still doing it the next year. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. So your tagline is painter by night. Can you tell us
a
little bit about that?
That's an old tagline that no one's going to get, but it made sense when it started. So many years back, there was this artist named Thomas Kincaid.
Yes.
Just a fucking sellout. Like this guy, you can read up on him. I think there's even some I
agree. 100%.
There's even some documentaries on him, I think.
But now I'm going to have to link to Thomas Kincaid.
Yeah, I know, you got to link to him. But when I was growing up in high school, the malls were big back then. This is the early 80s and 90s. And so there was malls everywhere. And he had these galleries in every mall, the Thomas Kincaid Gallery. So all my friends, everybody went in there always thinking that's what art was, right? Well, these galleries had no original art. What he would do is he'd just print shit. And then he'd come in, and I don't even think it was him, it was probably some Chinese workers or something, but they would just blob little dots of paint on it and then be like, okay, this is one of 300 personally touched by him or whatever. Yeah. And then sure enough, 3 years later, it was up to 3,000. They would just keep adding to this list, even though they wouldn't tell you that the production would just keep going. Anyway, so he called himself the painter of light.
Oh.
So I, as a joke, said, well, look, I'm going to be the painter by night. And then that's where that stupid thing came from. But no one will get that.
I like it.
The reason I call myself the painter by night is because I'm a nocturnal painter. So I start around 10 or 11, and I paint till like 3 or 4 in the morning. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that story, though, the backfill. That's good. So how did your work initially get discovered?
Well, I started selling art, like I touched on a little bit, in college. And then after college was over, I was like, oh shit, what am I gonna do like next? I don't have any idea what I'm gonna do next. So I moved up to Portland I was in Ashland, which is the most southern town in Oregon. And then moved to Portland, which is the most northern town in Oregon. And worked at like National Car Rental, cleaning sunflower seeds out of cars. And painted in the basement of this house every night and stuff like that. And I moved up there because a friend, the other guy who remember I was telling you about
the 2 guys.
Yeah, the 2 guys. The other guy, you become friends because you're sitting in that room painting all day. He got, somehow, I can't even remember how, he must have applied for it, but he got a gig at this place called Blackfish Gallery, which is a cooperative gallery in Portland.
They're still around.
Still fucking around, and they're still just like, they haven't changed a bit, same space. I can't even believe it. But at any rate, he got asked to show there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of cool. I'll go up and check it out. And I didn't get invited yet. But then when I was up in Portland, I started applying to it because it looked really cool. So you paid like $35 a month as an artist, and then you had to work like 2 days a month there, as you know, in this, because they open it like it's a real gallery, but the artists all run it basically. And I got in that gallery, and oh my God, that was the best thing ever, because I'm prolific artist, so I was just painting all day long, all night long, all day long. I was just painting, so I was pumping art out. I don't even know if it was good or not, but I was just making a lot of art. Yeah. And then this gallery is like, there's no rules to it really. Like you just go, you make art, you put it up, right? So there wasn't even like a gallery owner. So I could just put so much art up, because all the other gallery people, artists at the gallery are like instructors at the colleges and stuff. You know, they're busy with other stuff, but I'm just like this starving artist. I'm just making tons of art. So I got discovered through that gallery by a couple other galleries, and Patricia was one of them, up in Seattle, and then Froelich Gallery actually discovered me too, Charles Froelich down in Portland at the same time. So that's kind of how the ball started rolling.
Okay, cool. And then your first solo show was with Patricia in 1998?
My first solo show really was at Southern Oregon University, because your thesis project was a solo show. So you would do a solo show. Okay. I didn't do anything that fifth year but paint almost for your Bachelor of Fine Arts. You would paint for a solo show, and then you'd have the solo show in the gallery at the university. So that was kind of my first solo show, because it was like building the concept. It was called The Invention of Flight. And it was all about just like made up paintings I would make on the magic and the trigger point of that, when humans thought, I think we could actually just fly too. Like we can just leave ground. And so, you know, Leonardo da Vinci and the Wright brothers and all that stuff, but I was kind of just elaborating on all that. So I actually sold that show out. I mean, they were like $200 a piece.
Nice.
Back then. That's what got me going. Yeah. Like, oh my God, people actually want my art. So so that would be indirectly my solo show. And then I had several shows at Blackfish, like I described, that were solo shows. So no, I was having solo shows. When I got up to Patricia, I would say that was my first real gallery, you know, whereas like a solo show with actual gallery run, I'm just an artist, you know, not working there.
So how was that? Was that any different than the previous one?
Yeah, it was, in the fact that, well, part of it was that, you know, Seattle's a pretty big city, so it was, and she was a already well-established gallery, so there was a lot of, there's a lot of pressure in the fact that I felt like it was a real job, like this is actually real, like Blackfish Gallery, I was feeling like, you know, if it sucks, they don't kick you out. Yeah. They don't care what sells. You're not. So yeah, I think there was a lot of pressure, but it was also kind of where I started learning. No, Zero, we're not going to play. Just lay down, lay down, lay down. It was also where I learned to create stories for the shows, kind of there. So that was a big. It was like becoming a real artist. So I guess it was a big thing. And then the paycheck, when she sold so much shit, I was like, holy crap, this is more money I ever had in my life, you know? So, yeah, I guess it was a big deal in that respect. I felt real.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So when I was prepping for this, I used the word dreamscape, and I had to look it up to make sure that I had used it correctly. I was describing your works. And it was really interesting for me, because I've always thought of your work as similar to Salvador Dali's in a way. And they use Salvador Dali as the definition of dreamscapes. And I was like, wow, do you consider these dreamscapes at all?
I probably don't. I feel like Salvador Dali's are dreamscapes a little more, because his worlds are a little more I feel like his worlds are more non-real. I might feel like they actually, in my paintings, I feel like everything could happen. It just wouldn't. Like you could almost, so I feel like it's less dreamy and a little more, I feel like it's a little more.
I don't know if that.
Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know if that elephant could sit on top of the balloon that we have.
Yes, it could. You don't
It would have to be a really big balloon.
Well, first of all, you don't know that's a balloon. You assume it's a balloon.
I assume it is. Yes, this is true.
That doesn't necessarily a balloon to me.
Okay. This is true.
I don't know what the hell it would have been else, but
yeah,
but I hesitate with the word dream, but maybe I get where you're saying that the escape part I like because I'm building scenes, but I'd have to think about that word dream. But Salvador Dali, I definitely feel like his are dreamscapes, and I agree there is a little connection with the absurdity and the randomness with Salvador Dali with my art. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, cool. So when I think of a Tyson Grumm, I immediately think of the subject matter.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the subject matter?
The subject matter is bizarre because it comes up in an abstract way, which to me makes weird that you're painting realistic stuff, but forming it abstractly. And by that I mean, I usually don't plan the paintings, so I'm building them like collaging them almost, even though I'm painting them all. So I'll start with a painting of a landscape, unrelated to the landscape is unrelated to what I add next, which is, let's say I find an image or a scene of a businessman, and I want to add that, but then I had to. So it's all built without my prior knowledge of how it's going to tell a story. Which is very abstract to me, and that's why I paint that way, because it keeps it very interesting to me on what is next. It's almost like I'm as surprised as the next person would be, and I keep adding it until all of a sudden it'll click with me what I think the story is, and then I kind of keep adding to that with my story in mind. But when the viewer sees it, it's usually 99% of the time I'm not around. The collector will come up with their own story. So like you said, that was a balloon. I was making a joke, but honestly, you have your own story of what that triggers for you in your head, that painting, and it's probably way different than it does for me.
Yeah, I actually posted what that painting means to me on the blog.
Oh, I want to check it out. Okay, I haven't checked that out yet. Okay.
Yeah, and it's why I love that piece so much. And it sits right by my desk, right to the side of my monitors. So.
Yeah,
I just love that.
It's a killer piece. Yeah.
So the next thing that I think of after subject matter is the texture that you're, and I'm not talking about texture like Bill Braun paints texture. I'm talking about texture that you build up on and then you paint on.
Yeah.
And I think that's so quintessentially you.
Yeah, the texture is unique to me when I look at other textures on paintings and stuff, and it actually developed slowly through post-college. If I looked at a lot of my images right after college, stuff was very simple because I was still learning to paint a lot, and so the imagery was very simple horizon lines and very simple sky, land, a lot more abstract, not as much detail drawings, a lot more rudimentary. But I was having trouble because as I was manipulating the boards and the pieces, I needed to sand, and I had edges where I was taping and stuff. So to counter a lot of that stuff, I realized if I added texture, I could hide a lot of it. So I started painting on wood. I came up with a texture component. It's almost like a spackling system that's under the painting that is all done before I even know what the painting is. So it's just textured on, and with a spackling knife or a trowel, and it covers, so that way when I sand the painting in the process of making it, or do tape lines, or I use a Dremel to grind off stuff, or collages, which are underneath, all that stuff you don't see highlighted lines of, or everything's hidden a little more. So that's how that texture process actually started, and it has a very it kind of has a fresco feel. If you think of it, old Italian painters and stuff, it has a very fresco feel to it. But it also dictates a lot of where the image is placed, because I don't plan it and I'm just troweling it all on. There'll be grooves and weird little pockets that I'll have to either avoid or want to use on a wall, because when I burnish them, they create these. No, you can swing by. My wife's.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
That's okay.
I gotta get over to the horse.
So those textures and stuff can be gorgeous in certain areas. So a lot of the process of that texture on the back kind of manipulates how the composition is decided. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely love the texture.
Yeah, I do too. So it's good to hear that too, because it's so critically important to me as I'm painting, because also, acrylic paint isn't real textural. You can make it textural real fast, but because it dries fast, it's a hard paint to. If you look at old painters when they painted in oil and stuff, there's big fat, and sometimes it take weeks for that texture to dry because you have these big blobs of. But I found that acrylic painting with the speed, and I use a blow dryer to make it. I try to paint really fast because I'm always interested in the next thing. I only do one painting at a time usually and try to process the whole thing. But the texture is a little harder to manipulate using acrylic paint, I think. So it also enhances the feel of kind of old world or oil painting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate that. And that makes a lot more sense to me now too. So the next thing that I think about when I think of your work is what's it going to be framed in?
Yeah.
It's either going to be some really simple yet exquisitely done frame, or something weird like a chalkboard or foundry pieces.
Yeah.
How do you find those?
That's a little bit like we were talking about too with the house and stuff. I always have my eyes open for antique wood. I go to a lot of salvage stores and find pieces, and everything I see is potential for either going into my house as the construction of my house or framing, stuff like that. So it's all potential. I hit a lot of antique stores. I'm kind of into just even basic wood, but if it has a nice patina on it. And like you were saying, they don't all. Some of the frames are very simple and don't have that, but
they're very well done.
Yeah. Well, and I love woodworking, and like I said, I love the physical part of that. So I find that stuff everywhere, but the second I see it, a lot of times I'll be like, that's potential. So I have a shed full of shit that's potential stuff.
Very cool. What's some of your favorite items that you've used for frames?
My favorite, I found that this one was so cool. It was a lava measuring stick. So it was like about 20 feet long, and it came in a box, like a handmade wood box. And it was these like, they were like giant rulers, but they're made out of wood. And you put them together with these metal brackets, and they used them for measuring the depths of lava flows.
Of molten lava?
No, this is dried lava.
Okay, I'm like, wait a minute.
No, these are made out of wood. So it's like dried lava flows. This is what I was told. I mean, the antique store. In like, I don't know, somewhere Sweden or Switzerland or something like that is where it came from. I don't know. But anyway, it was the coolest thing. So I was able to use the box. I dismantled the box, which is like 20 feet long. It had this patina on it that was gorgeous. Had like leather straps. And then also the rulers, which went around a whole painting once, like this really huge painting on the door panel. So that was one of my favorites. It's foundry molds. This lot of foundry molds I got, which was hundreds of molds. They're amazing. They're cog shaped, and some of them are very intricate, and some of them are very simple. They have these gorgeous red, and they have scribble marks all over them. So all that stuff, but it adds to the story of the painting indirectly, which I love too.
Yeah. So have you ever taken a piece and worked backwards from that?
Yeah, totally.
Painting?
I've done a lot of pieces where I found the antique and been like, okay, I got to make a painting around this. So it's not necessarily related to the antique, but plenty of times I've like gotten the inspiration from the antique and then built it backwards down.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, cool. And I don't want to give anyone the impression that you have to have a really cool antique frame
no,
from
you
Tyson.
Don't.
Mine's not.
No, there's plenty of traditional ones that are pretty cool too.
And I absolutely love ours.
Okay.
I love the way that ours is framed.
Yeah,
so.
And yours fits your house really well, so that's good too.
Yeah, it does. It's actually another window. It looks like another window where it's placed, so it's really cool. So you also use a lot of imagery besides animals and humans. You use maps and numbers and graffiti.
Yeah.
How do you decide what goes in?
Again, abstract. I have a little arsenal of papers and collages, origami, paper, old maps, tons of stuff like that. And a lot of times I'll collage that on to the door panel or board first, and then I texture over it. I would say 40% of the time, none of it ends up showing, but I put it on there because again, I don't know what the painting is going to be yet. So a lot of times I'll think, oh, I'll use this, and then it's a landscape painting and there can't really be any walls where some of that stuff will pop through and stuff like that. So it doesn't end up showing up. But It's a process that I've learned that I like anyway because it's potentially there. And a lot of them are unrelated. I kind of like that, so I'll put a lot of weird stuff together that you wouldn't normally put together. I put Pakistani dollar bills in there and all kinds of weird match things. So all that is put on there, texture's put on, and then it's all sanded so that there's no highlights or ridges that you can see it anywhere. And then the painting's then put on over that, and then some stuff shows and some stuff doesn't. Some stuff barely whispers through. I'm picturing in like 200 years, maybe some other stuff starts to come through. You know how like shit ages? Yeah, I'm like, I bet somebody's gonna like start to see a map, like go, shit, I didn't even know that was under the sky. Now it's starting to like melt through.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the maps in your pieces.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the maps. Huge fan of that and the origami.
Yep, the origami's cool too. I love that too.
I also like when you do graffiti.
Yep.
So are you a fan of street art?
I am. I'm a fan of street art or anything like that because it's basically creativity. You know what I mean? Like you're just little blobs of creativity. Street art's, graffiti's a little busy for me usually, but there's always an element I love from it. So like, let's say you see where some place is graffitied really bad. It's just cool because there's something that I can pull from it individually.
Okay. So what types of art do you gravitate to?
What do you mean? Like what types of art?
What types of art? Street art, fine art?
Oh, what types of like?
Yeah.
This sounds egotistical, but I gravitate towards my own art, like art that looks like mine.
That's cool.
So surrealism, stuff with texture that's realism, a little darker than I am, maybe a little bit. I like kind of more macabre kind of dark stuff than maybe I paint, but I like art that's similar to how I paint, probably because of what I said earlier, where I'm always seeing stuff I want in it. So
okay.
But I there's a lot of art where I'm like I would love that in my house, and I'm like, that kind of looks like how I paint though. Maybe no, I'd still want it in my house. Okay,
I've got a couple artists that I'm going to have to bounce off you later. But, so, and I know that a lot of artists, when they sell pieces to celebrities, they're locked into NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. But I do know that that Whoopi Goldberg has a piece by you.
Yeah, she has a couple.
She has a couple.
Yeah.
So she's actually a collector.
Yeah,
that's really cool. When you sold your first piece to a celebrity, how'd that feel? Was that like?
You know, it's so weird. When you're in galleries, you don't hear, it's like, I find it out like later. It's almost like it's not very instantaneous. I hear, it's like there's art, there's famous people in front of the camera, and then there's famous ones behind the camera that I've sold to. There's like executives, stuff like that, but the galleries don't really keep you in the loop a lot on a lot of that stuff. So I don't get told it directly really, because how a gallery system usually works with an artist like me is they're running the business end and I'm just at home in my jammies painting. So they kind of don't dialogue with you sometimes they'll tell you, like Patricia said, I think she's the one who told me that Whoopi had collected a piece, and then I actually met Whoopi, and that was cool too because we went to one of her comedy shows. But it's not. I'm actually more interested in it's more enticing to me the collectors that have like multiple pieces of mine. To me that's more amazing because that's kind of like I feel like that's my goal basically is like I want to that's more impressive to me that I can make someone fascinated on another painting and another painting, and so that's more rewarding I guess to me.
Well, crap, that means I'm gonna have to get another one.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is that I love the piece that you gave us so much. Yeah. I mean, and there's so many elements of it that are me, which I've talked about on the blog, that when I see another piece by you, I'm like, it's not as good as that one. It's not as good as that one.
Right.
Or, oh, damn, that is, but that's sold, or it's too expensive, at the time.
Yeah.
So, that's
there's always another piece.
I know.
Just be patient.
I know. There will be another piece, and I've got my eyes on one. Kind of mentioned it to you already, but we don't have any more space in our home.
There's always more space.
I know.
You just got to get a bigger car.
There you go. One of those big Mercedes vans
Yeah, exactly.
that cost 250
Oh, look, I
grand.
got another 10 square feet of wall space.
Yeah. So I know that at one point you were open to commissions. Are you still?
Yeah, I still do commissions.
Cool. Do you do people's pets?
I don't. Kind of don't. So I've been asked to do people's pets, and I try to stay away from it because I don't want to become that. So here's how I have set those up in the past, is I'll be like, okay, give me pictures of your dog or your cat or whatever it is, and then let me kind of do my version of what I think should be going on here, rather than, like, I just need a portrait of my pet. So yeah, I have done that here and there, but it's usually not the focal point of the painting. Does that kind of make sense?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah. So, and no, I'm kind of not against anything, but on commissions, I like to know that they don't have too many expectations. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I've actually seen one of your commissions, and it was absolutely exquisite.
They turned out, they're pretty funky. They're really fun. So how I set up commissions, which keeps it fun for the client and then also me, is I'll usually say, make me a list of things you're interested in, numbers, words, phrases, animals, send me pictures of shit. And then I just take all that and I'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna make something out of this, but don't give me any, and then I have them also give me like 2 or 3 paintings that I've done in the past that they like, that I've done. So I kind of have an idea of what they're attracted to. And then I just go off from there, and they turn out super wacky sometimes, which is really cool. I mean, they appreciate it. So.
Yeah, the one that we saw, our home was on a home tour for Mount Baker. It was a charity thing.
Okay.
And we had, I think there were like 700 people that went through our home in one day. Never do that.
Okay.
We raised a lot of money for the club.
Why was it stressful?
Oh my God, 700 people going through your home in one day.
Well, that's kind of cool though, right?
Yeah, you got it. But it is
one time. I mean, you don't.
Yeah, and you have people there watching so that nobody walks off with any art or anything.
Yeah, but that's kind of. I mean, it's kind of fun to share too. Like you basically had because you're practically a gallery, so you basically had a gallery show.
Kind of.
A group show.
Yeah, it was kind of like a. Group
so
show.
I was in a group show and you didn't let me know.
Oops. Oops. Sorry.
I could have put it on my resume.
You could have. Yeah. So, anyways, I can't remember where I was going with this. Oh, the commission.
Yeah.
And they had. It was just fascinating listening to her because so prior to this, they invited us, all the homeowners that were on the tour, over for a dinner. And I was like, that's a Tyson Grumm. And she's like, yeah. And she went and she told me, and it was all of their vacation stuff. You had
really
put in maps and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool.
Yeah, okay. So
she
you got to
could
see
walk me through everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
really
no, they're pretty wild. So I don't remember that specific piece, but I'm sure I would if I saw it.
Yeah, if you saw it.
But yeah, I'm glad you got to see one because they turn out really funky because they only make sense to the person. Like if you walked in and saw that, you're like, what the hell? It's so abstract and wacky. Yeah. But everything means something to them.
Everything meant something to them. It was really cool.
That's cool.
And so you've been with Patricia Rovzar for 25 years.
Oh shit, that's a long time.
That is a long time. That's a long time. That's huge in the art industry too.
Yeah, that's longer than I've been with my wife.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? So what's that like having a relationship?
That's
love
unusual.
Patricia.
Yeah, that's really unusual. It doesn't happen very often, and it's pretty cool. We have a really good relationship, I think partly because she's like a great business person and she really cares about her craft and doing it good, and that is exactly how I am. So, and then also, this sounds a little egotistical, but she thinks she's the best gallery owner in town. Well, I think I'm the best artist in town. So I think we have this symbiotic or symbiosis or whatever that word is, where we both think we're really good at what we do, and then we work together and make each other better. So I think that's an odd thing that makes us work together too. But she's really good at her job, and I'm like, I just lucked out part of it because these relationships with galleries are really kind of difficult.
Yeah.
I'm sure you hear about it all the time with artists and stuff. And it's a little, I'm kind of like a blue collar artist. So there's artists that are like kind of famous artists where they have to be, they kind of help sell the art. The artists themselves is part of the package.
Yeah.
And a blue collar artist is kind of one that just sits in the background, which is like how I see myself. And I paint and people don't even know who I am. And then I give it to her. And she's the one working hard to get it out there and, you know, have people see it and have people fall in love with it. And so that's almost like a little bit of an old school kind of, it's probably dying off almost a little bit, I feel like, but we have a good relationship where we both work really hard and are really good at what we do, and I think that's the main thing. And then she's passionate and I'm passionate. So
no, I can see that, and you are both very good at what you do.
Yeah,
bought a lot of art from Patricia.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason she's good at what she does.
Exactly.
So, you also had you recently did a solo show there.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal, and you gave me a tour.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely phenomenal. That video's down below. And I can't thank you enough, because walking through your show with you and getting your perspective on it, that's incredible. And
it doesn't happen a lot, and I'm not even fully comfortable doing it, just in the fact that it's the first time I see it up there too. So like, it's not in my house all set up for the 6 months I'm working on it, and I'm like, okay, it kind of is all a surprise to me too. Like, I'm seeing it for the first time all collectively together. And I can enjoy it in many of the same ways you do, where I can see that the vision and the idea kind of all come together, and I can see things that kind of work. And one of the most actually surprising things to me when I see that is, for myself, is the color scheme. So I can't, when you see all the pieces together, it's like 27 pieces. I'm always surprised by the palette. I'm like, oh, okay, it's a little brighter. Every year the palette's a little different, and I don't know that. I'm not consciously doing that, but that's probably one of the most exciting parts for me. But I'm glad I got to walk you through and articulate a little bit of my thoughts on some of it, because I don't normally do that. It's kind of fun to do it. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, I haven't edited it yet.
Okay.
So I'll give it to you before we post it.
Okay.
So do you have any call outs for any artists or individuals or institutions?
The only one that comes to mind that is, and I don't think, have you ever been to Obsolete?
I don't think so.
You have to, so I'm gonna call out Obsolete in, I think they're in Culver City now. They were in Venice, but they're in Culver City. That's my gallery in LA. Okay. And that place is magical. So we're talking about compositions, where I build the yard and the house and the art, and it's all kind of working together. This guy, Ray, who owns Obsolete and runs it, he curates, like, he goes and gets furniture and bonsai tree, just insane stuff from Europe and all over the world. And then he has art. He has about 10 or 12 artists too that are in a gallery he calls Sleek Gallery, which is just basically part of Obsolete. But the environment, so then he builds these vignettes in this space. So you walk in and it's kind of like a scene with art mixed in. So it's not like a gallery, it's a typical gallery. It's like there's furniture in there and very bizarre kind of sculptural things and stuff like that. But it's a whole experience. And when you're in LA, you have to go check it out. Okay. It's amazing. He works a lot with interior designers, and it sells a lot through them.
Okay, random unscripted question.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Meow Wolf?
No.
You need to go.
Is that in LA?
They have different ones slated throughout the country.
Okay.
I'll link to it down below.
Okay. I've never even heard of it.
For some reason, it just came to mind.
Okay.
It's something that you would love as you were talking about that.
Definitely.
As you were talking about Obsolete. So.
Sure.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. This has been good.
It has been. It's been great. It's great to get to know you a little better, too.
Yeah, good.
So thanks for tuning in. My mugshot should be appearing now. And if you'd click on that and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.